In this lesson, we are continuing our discussions of the various different influential figures associated with the British Empire during this period of study, and we're spending time in this lesson talking about Sir Evelyn Baring, who was the first Earl of Cromer from 1841 to 1917, and as you can imagine, and as should be obvious at this point, was a very pivotal figure in the British imperial administration between this area of time that we're talking about, particularly in Egypt. But we're going to get to Egypt secondly, because we're going to first spend our time talking about his early career, specifically looking at his service in India and other areas as well, in fact. So, Evelyn Baring begins his career in the Royal Artillery in 1858. And in that endeavour, he serves in various different locations, including Corfu, Malta, and Jamaica. So he really goes all over the world and all over the British Empire during this time period. But in 1872, he begins to transition away from military service towards civil service. He then becomes a private secretary to his cousin, who is Lord Northbrook, who at the time is the Viceroy of India. And so, of course, he spends some time in service to the Viceroy of India and therefore spends some time in India. His tenure in India was marked by his strong administrative skills. He earned the nickname the Viceroy among his colleagues because of his assertive approach to governance and because of his growing figure as a character within the sort of broader context of the British administration of the Indian subcontinent at this time. Baring's experiences in India deepened his belief in the necessity for there to be strong British rule and to reform and uplift colonised populations. And it's really from here that he learns a number of lessons that he then takes to Egypt from 1877 to 1882. In 1877, he was appointed commissioner to the Caisse de la Tête Publique, the international body overseeing Egypt's finances. Under the Khedive, Ismail Pasha in Egypt, we see there is the facing of quite a severe financial crisis due to extravagant spending. Baring's investigations revealed the extent of this mismanagement as the commissioner, leading to the 1879 Commission of Inquiry, which declared Egypt to be bankrupt. Ismail Pasha's resistance to the reforms led to his deposition in favour of his son, who was Tawfiq Pasha. Following this change, Baring was reappointed as the British Controller General of the Egyptian finances in 1879, and he would hold that position for a year until 1880. So he starts his life in Egypt and his career in Egypt as the commissioner of the international body overseeing the financial situation of Egypt in the 1870s to the early 1880s. This, of course, is very important, especially given the fact that it was a declaration of the bankruptcy of the Egyptian region. But then in 1882, we can see that we get the Arabi Revolt in Egypt, which prompted British military intervention in the region, and it leads to the occupation of Egypt itself. Now, in 1883, Baring would then return to Cairo as a British agent and consul general, and he had then effectively become the de facto ruler of Egypt. That's essentially the long and short of it in terms of the resulting British occupation. And so his administration would then have to think about how to deal with the region and the occupation now of Egypt. His administration focused on financial stability, infrastructure development, and the suppression of nationalist movements. His policies were characterised by a belief in British superiority and a paternalistic approach to governance, emphasising the need for a strong centralised control in order to maintain order and to implement the effective reforms that he believed were necessary for changing and reforming Egypt more generally. We can then see that later on, between the later period, or at least in terms of his influence more generally, he, of course, is influential in shaping British colonial policy in Egypt. His first role in India, of course, gives him a sort of sense of importance and a sense of a growth in his ability for administrative skills. But it's only really when we get to his role in Egypt that we see the importance of Evelyn Baring and his work. Firstly, as the commissioner of the international body overseeing Egypt's finances, but then secondly, his return to Egypt as de facto ruler following the British military intervention after the Arabi revolt in Egypt, which prompted the occupation of the region itself.